Hey guys, new video guide here. This is gonna be sort of a 2.0 version of my old Bladestorm Gladiator, but it's actually pretty different. This version scales way better into the endgame and is more focused on bossing and other endgame content like delving, while still maintaining good clear speed for general mapping. I've cleared pretty much all content pretty easily. Uber et Siri, Uber Elder, Awakener 8, over Delve Depth 500, and I got to level 100 as the rank 1 Gladiator. Although I did start off as Axis for the start of the league, and I'll leave a path of building for that version in the description as well. But for this version, instead of going Axis and using Resolute technique, we're using swords and going crit, which allows us to get a lot more DPS. We're also going for max block and spell block, 75%, which makes us very strong defensively, along with a pretty decent life pool. The biggest downside compared to the older version is that we lose some clear speed for mapping because we're not using challenger charges or rage, as well as this version requiring a little bit more currency for it to feel good and effective, though you can easily build it on a budget as well. Alright, so taking a look at the passive tree, it's gonna look something like this. I think it's a pretty standard melee tree for the most part. We're taking Call to Arms is the only keystone for instant Enduring Cry. We're taking a lot of life nodes, of course, impale nodes, some crit nodes, sword nodes, a lot of block nodes. Reaching the block cap can be pretty hard, so you definitely need a lot of block on your tree as well as your gear. Taking Soul of Steel, and yeah, I think that about covers it. So let's move on to the Ascendancy points. Taking Pain Forged and Versatile Combatant. This is the biggest reason to go Gladiator. Like, going Champion, you could probably get a lot more damage, but Versatile Combatant lets us get so much block and spell block, it's pretty much impossible to reach the cap without it. So yeah, these are really good. For the other points, I'm taking Blood in the Eyes and Gratuitous Violence for the bleed explosions. They're really good. However, if you can afford a good explosion chest, I could recommend speccing out of this and going Arena Challenger. The bleed explosions are better, they are 10%, the explosion chest is 3%, so it's a bit of a trade-off, but you could definitely do that in order to get some speed and more damage. If you do that, I would probably remove Blood in the Eyes as well and go for either one of Violent Retaliation or Outmatch and Outlast. Doesn't really matter, they're both pretty good. I guess I would take Violent Retaliation and try to get some more block on your gear. Speaking of gear, let's take a look at that. I guess the big thing is Saviour. I mean, it's a great sword, great weapon. It pretty much like doubles your damage. It's crazy. Combs Roots, really good. You need to get some block on your gear. So block on the gloves is pretty good. You can get on your chest, I think. I'm using the Owl's Uprising actually for block because it gives me free determination, and I'm using a Watcher's Eye that gives block and double damage while using Pride, which I am using. So it's a decent alternative. It's not a mandatory unique by any means. I guess only the Saviour is. Combs Roots are really nice. You know, can't be stunned, can't be slowed. A lot of life, really good. Would recommend. For the chest, I'm using an Elder chest, Elder Astral Plate with attacks have crit is the big thing. Good amount of life, resist, and yeah. Again, you could go for the explosion chest. It's gonna be really good as well. I'm using a Stygian Vice so I can fit in a Searching Eye Jewel easily for Onslaught during maps. I'm using a really ridiculous foil with just too much DPS. It's like 500 plus. You don't need anything near this in order to clear all the content. It's really overkill, but with Harvest League it's pretty cheap actually to get something like this. Yeah, I'm also using the Bladestorm enchant for the head and vulnerability on hit ring with the mana enchant just to make mana more smooth. You do need mana leech somewhere as well. I got it on a jewel. You could get it on like a ring or gloves or something and put a Searching Eye in your tree maybe and use a Soul Tether as a belt. That could be really good to give you overleech. There's a lot of freedom with the gear as long as you're preferably gonna get 75% attack block, because you get the spell block for free with the Versatile Combatant. And yeah, the flasks, Life Flask, bleed removal, really good. You need it. And Basalt Flask, Lion's Roar, Bottled Faith, and Diamond Flask. I guess you could play around with using something else than a Basalt Flask, but it's just really good mitigation. And Lion's Roar, I mean, it's an auto-include in pretty much any Fizz build for melee. And Bottled Faith, it's a little expensive, but it's great if you can afford it, but it's not mandatory by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, let's take a look at the links. I'm using Bladestorm, of course, Fortify, Close Combat, Melee Fizz, Brutality, and Impale. You can also swap these in, Pulverize and Rage. I usually switch out Melee Fizz for Pulverize, just for mapping. But if you have a lot of damage, you can use Rage instead of Brutality as well to just get more move and attack speed to just clear faster for mapping. However, for bossing, this is the setup you're gonna use. I also have this Culling Strike, Faster Attacks, Ancestral, and Leap Slam. It's pretty good to cull bosses with the War Sheaf. It also gives you a lot of damage, and you can cull them with Leap Slam too. Also using Blood Rage, Dread Banner, Enduring Cry. That's why we have this Call to Arms, so it's instant. You bind it to your left click and you cast it automatically, and you get endurance charges and this life gain for free, pretty much. And I have Enlighten, Blood and Sand, Precision, Pride. Don't need to have the Enlighten, I suppose, if you want to play around with the links a little bit and just use a lower level of precision. As long as your mana feels fine, then use whatever you want. Molten Shell, Increased Duration, Determination. So Determination, again, I'm only using it because of Owl's Uprising with this for the free block with this one. It's pretty neat. And Molten Shell, I mean, it's especially when we get a lot of armor from our gear and from Determination, Molten Shell is just going to be a lot of mitigation. So that's really good. Yeah, I think that's about it. You want damage, of course. This enchant is just nothing. I don't know. Yeah, you can play around quite a bit with the gear, as well as the links. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments or contact me in game. And I think I'm just gonna leave you with an Awakener kill. And yeah, thanks for watching.